The article continues, quote, outside central Quetta at the bulk storage depot of Pakistan State Oil Company, workers said that the ISI officers now regularly requisition fuel for Afghanistan, truck convoys, and also fill truck tanks with gasoline to take to Afghanistan, unquote. The same article says, 20 miles from the frontier, at the Chaman Octroi, or toll station, for commercial goods being transported by trucks, workers can count the number of vehicles heading out of the country. They report that Pakistan is shipping large quantities of secret goods into Afghanistan daily, unquote. The article continues, every day more than 18 to 20 trucks head into Afghanistan, unquote, said Gul Achikzai, who has been in charge of the checkpoint since July. Quote, a major from the ISI accompanies them. They are usually in a blue or red pickup and show their identification. They say, we have so many trucks for Afghanistan. You have to let us through. Sometimes the trucks are covered with traps. We do not know what are in them, men, munition, petrol, whatever. And the ISI doesn't let us disclose, Achekzai said. The employees said the vehicles were carrying 100 telephones, 250 unit switchboards, and a VHF telephone relay station, an antenna to provide a wireless link with the Pakistani telephone center at Chaman. Also in the convoy were 50 telegraph and telephone engineers and linesmen. The convoy's destination, Kandahar, was confidential, they said. When we went, I don't tell my family where I was going. We were told it was supposed to be a secret job. One telegraph and telephone employee said, quote, in Kandahar, the Pakistani presence was also carefully concealed. 11. As brought to the attention of the Council in our letter of 7 December 1995, published as Security Council document S/1995/1014, dated 12/9/95. Recently, the Taliban seems to have been made to enjoy air power capabilities. Let me quote some pertinent testimony to this effect. Internationally known Pakistani journalist and observer of the Afghan conflict, Ahmad Rashid, was interviewed by BBC World Service on Sunday, November 26, 1995. I wish, for the sake of the record, to quote parts of the transcript of the interview. Question by BBC. Where did the Taliban get their planes from? Ahmad Rashid. The Taliban captured over 40 aircraft from Herat, the city that was captured several months ago. They had some planes in Kandahar that needed spare parts and munitions. They have been getting some help putting these planes into the air, first from General Abdul Rashid Dostum and also from Pakistan, as far as technical help is concerned. Question, how much and what sort of technical help? Ahmad Rashid says, well, for example, in recent weeks, it has been widely published that Pakistan has helped set up a telephone network for Taliban in Kandahar and in Herat. And also, I think spare parts for MiGs are also being given. At the same time, the Taliban are spending a lot of money hiring pilots from the former Afghan regime who have been in exile in Pakistan. These are communist pilots who are hiding out in Quetta or Peshawar and have been hired at 4,000 to 5,000 US dollars a month to fly these planes out of Kandahar. These were the pilots, I think, responsible for today's bombing of the Kabul city, unquote. Again, BBC question. Has Pakistan thrown in its lot with the Taliban as opposed to Rabbani or anybody else? Or are there various competing Pakistani agencies? Ahmad Rashid answer. There was a time when Pakistan was really not involved. However, I think now Pakistan has gone much more directly involved. Pakistan is now seeing that its only ally in the field is the Taliban, unquote. Mr. President, distinguished delegates, As a result of such Pakistani assistance, empowering Taliban with their capability, in recent months, they have conducted aerial strikes on the Kabul civilian population that in March 1995 and since October 11 and as recent as December 1795 caused great losses of life and injuries while destroying many public and civilian properties. These behaviors of Taliban proved that these mercenaries have no respect for international humanitarian law. Mr. President, I would like to elucidate for the sake of the record the grave concern of the government and of the people of Afghanistan with regard to the Taliban and their potential threat in the future. We wonder if the sponsors of the Taliban have ever envisaged the danger of the group turning totally or partly towards terrorist organizations in the region for the reasons below. One, bearing in mind the tendency of the Taliban aiming at position of power and the reluctance on their part to even share power with the other parties. Should they fail to achieve what they are promised, they would naturally resort to terrorism as a means of revenge. Two, currently the Taliban are in a series of close contacts with some of the fundamentalist groups such as Sipahi Sahaba in Pakistan, engaged in armed hostilities against other sects. Three, the position of military base together with operational fields inside Afghanistan would further provide them the chance of expansion in the whole region and even beyond. Four, as complementary to the trends and certain agenda for terrorism, a terrorist group needs to accumulate money and weapons, with which Taliban seems to have already been well supplied. Five, such groups become predominantly a party to the traffic of illicit drug as a source of revenue. In the case of the Taliban, it is worthy to note that they are in military control of parts of the country, such as the Helmand province, where poppy is cultivated. Mr. President, elaboration of the facts above does not necessarily imply an intention on the part of the Islamic State of Afghanistan to advocate an antagonistic attitude towards Pakistan. The principled foreign policy of the Islamic State of Afghanistan firmly advocates a sincere friendship and cooperative relationship with all member states, in particular with the neighboring countries. We remain indebted to the fraternal Pakistani nation who stood by in our days of trial, a chapter of history in which the Afghan nation exerted to not only fight to defend itself, but far beyond countries situated on the way of Soviets' southward thrust, including Pakistan, the region to be shielded from that potential threat. As we have announced on numerous occasions, we would like to re-establish a close and brotherly ties with Pakistan. Quite obviously, ties are to be based upon mutual respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, and non-interference in each other's internal affairs. Afghanistan, together with Pakistan, can play a significant role of strengthening and broadening the cooperation between all the countries of the region in economic as well as cultural fields. We believe an effective realization of regional cooperation, coordinated by the Economic Cooperation Organization, ECO, cannot be achieved without peace and cooperative relationship between the two countries. Mr. President, during the past years, the United Nations was actively participating in rehabilitation and reconstruction activities in the country. While we are deeply appreciative of the efforts undertaken for the revitalization of the basic and infrastructural projects in the rural areas, as well as the urban areas, we are expecting additional endeavors and resources in coordination with the Ministry of Planning of Afghanistan and other concerned ministries for longer-term perspective of development of the country. Special and further attention is needed to strengthen cooperation in mine clearance, This coordination of the rehabilitation of activities would further promote the necessary contacts of the local authorities with the relevant ministries and enhance the national dimensions of projects in accordance with the national strategies elaborated for overall economic development of the country. Mr. President, in conclusion, with regard to the draft resolution A/50L60 introduced by Germany on behalf of the co-sponsors, we express satisfaction to the final shape the draft is taking. We are happy to find ourselves in a position to join the consensus, although there still seems to be concepts and notions in the text that do not seem to bear direct relations to the actual purpose behind the item under consideration. We once again thank all those who positively contributed to this achievement. The draft resolution is only enlisting some basic principles and re-emphasizes on the mandate of the special mission. The degree of the future success in meeting the mandate, however, remains dependent upon the sincerity of all of us, the sides to the conflict, and the United Nations as mediator, to play our roles as foreseen and to contribute to the peace process as expected. Countries in a position to have a kind of political leverage that, if utilized, could help terminate foreign interference may have a larger and salutary share. The road to peace in Afghanistan is clear. If these countries provide sufficient weight behind a United Nations role in which the special mission is enabled to use its capabilities and active impartiality and remove the hindrances. It is in the interest of the people of Afghanistan, who have endured more than enough pain and suffering, destruction and bereavement, as well as for the interests of regional peace and stability, to expect the United Nations to enhance a peace process in which the main actor is the Afghan people, to decide for themselves what is the essence of democracy, without which only the rule of dictate will prevail. And I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Afghanistan, His Excellency Mr. Ghafoorzai, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs. I now give the floor to the representative of India.